that was against the ayah, right? Surah Al-Baqarah 240. As a student, kita faham ayat ni, kita dah belajar. So whenever depan esok ataupun masa sekarang you ada facing such issues, then you know, the hadith clear verses in Al-Quran, mention the regarding the issue and mentioned just now. So in hadith, narrated by Al-Bukhari, leave your children in one's pleasure better than to leave them in a state to be asked, in a state of hunger, in a state of kata meminta-minta lah, in a state of terpaksa sebab tak ada harta ataupun pendapatan. Harta, maknanya kita include of money sebab tidak ditinggalkannya secara terurus. Maknanya kita pun memang betul, kita siapa pun tak tahu kematian tu datang bila. So the best is to plan, to plan at least something, left behind. Bila mana kita tu kematian datang tu yang kita tak pasti. So whatever yang diperlukan adalah tinggalkan keluarga kita dalam keadaan mereka berpendapatan. Jangan tinggalkan mereka. Okay, so basically these are the pillars lah. Al-Musi, kita panggil sebagai testator, Salahu, the beneficiary, Al-Musabihi, the subject, the subject itu kita merujuk kepada
saya rasa line doktor tak berapa stabil ke saya seorang saja?
Saya pun rasa macam tu.
Macam tak clear, tak dengar.
Sustain dan sekali lagi. Memang dari start tadi ke? Dari mula tadi ke?
Daripada yang dekat sini tadi, yang pasal wasiat, pasal sirah, acceptance, subject tu semua. Dan tadi dekat bahagian ayat Quran tadi okey.
Okay.
Sekarang dah jelas dah.
Okay, right. Okay, so this is basically the pillars, pillars of wasiat. So we have Al-Musi, the testator, Al-Musalahu, the beneficiary, Al-Musabihi, the subject referring to the estates and also properties left behind by the testator, and last one is sirah, offer and acceptance. Whether the intention is being written or delivered, conveyed to the beneficiary. Acceptance daripada the subject of the wasiat will be given. Maknanya ada lah beneficiary yang accept the property, or estates left behind by the testator. Okay, so ini sedikit je kita nak tengok similarities and differences between wills yang referring to non-Muslim wills and also wasiat. Okay, so wills and wasiat have a similarity, kind of similarity. As you can see in the screen, okay, the wills, both wills and wasiat take effect on the death of the testator. Ini kita faham lah, bila meninggal dunia, masa hidup testator tu, siapalah boleh mana kata dalam masa hidup tu tak ada siapa yang boleh ubah melainkan testator itu sendiri, kan? Dan selagi mana testator hidup, the will cannot be enforced. Dia dah meninggal dunia, barulah seorang meninggal dunia barulah boleh enforce. Okay, and also it is revocable during the testator's lifetime. So as long as the testator is still alive, then can be maybe or he may revoke the wills and also wasiat. Nak revoke lah beberapa kali pun, sampai puas hati, so boleh during the testator's lifetime. Okay, the differences. Okay, kita boleh tengok sini lah. Will, ya, testator may dispose of the whole property. Okay, kalau according to non-Muslims, they can they can dispose of, they may dispose of all their estates and properties, okay, kepada satu penama ataupun beberapa penama. So ikut dia lah, follow his heart, his or her heart lah. But in wasiah, it shall be based on principle, derived from hadith, yang mana it shall only affect of 1/3 of the testator's estate. Okay, 1/3 ke satu, dah 1/3. Tidak lebih daripada 1/3 daripada harta, keseluruhan harta berwasiat. And ada lagi, kalau kita baca lagi hadis, dia tak boleh wasiat tidak boleh. La wasiatan warisin, kan? Saya ingat lagi tu, hadis tu, tidak ada wasiat untuk ahli waris. 1/3 is for the non-legal heirs. Okay. Okay, will pula shall be distributed according to the will. Okay, kena tengok will pula, whatever stated, mentioned in the will. Okay, so those yang being appointed as executor shall follow whatever hasrat, intention of the executor stated in the will. Ni sebut ni kan, hadis ni shall not be made in favor of the legal heirs unless the consent are obtained. Ni ada khilaf lah kalangan fuqaha, ulama yang mengatakan boleh di kalangan ahli waris sekiranya ada persetujuan di kalangan ahli waris. Okay, shall not affect the scheme of distribution to the legal heirs. Okay, in Islam, Islamic will or wasiah, or called as wasiah, dia tak boleh affect the scheme of distribution to the legal heirs, referring to faraid. So whatever mentioned in wasiah, wasiah is for non-legal heirs, you cannot deny the rights of legal heirs as in faraid. So nampak boleh nampak perbezaan antara, kita tak tengok lagi dia punya distribution lagi. Jadi kita sampai tajuk succession and trustees tu akan highlight portion yang dah tak nampak dalam distribution act. Tapi itu pun dah topik akhir-akhir. Cuma kat topik akhir tu kita macam dah sort of macam kind of revision. Tapi sekarang ni you dah boleh mula dah tengok segi, baca segi section 6 of distribution act for non-Muslim tu, kita boleh nampak lah how much being allocated to each legal heirs. Kalau mati, meninggalkan isteri, dapat berapa. Kalau ada isteri, ada parents, ada anak, dapat berapa. Macam struktur faraid lah, tapi dia have different portion lah. Kita tak sama lah nak faraid dia lebih mengambil kira banyak pihak. Selain kita ada ashabul furud, dan kalau ada ashabul furud dia boleh pergi sohbah lain kan. Macam tu, tapi diorang ada, tapi kita nak kena baca section 6 tu nanti. Okay, tapi sekarang for the time you marry you marry your own. Nanti kita akan we will come to that topic. Okay, yang ni yang nak baca yang itu kan, kita nak baca nanti. Yang ni kita harap boleh baca next week lah, insyaAllah. Okay, yang tu kita dah dengan itu kita dah complete lah topik. So wills, wills non-Muslim and also Muslim. Okay, dekat wills ni okey tak? Ada okey, hari Sabtu ni ada tak kelas dengan Puan Ruzina?
Ada doktor.
Ha?
Ada. Pukul start
Ada.
daripada pukul 9 sampai pukul 1. TLB 1 sampai TLB 4.
Okay. So dia ada tanya, boleh ke buat public holiday? Saya cakap kena tanya student lah. Sebab kalau
Dah
discuss kan.
kami setuju untuk teruskan je lah kelas ni. Sebab nanti akan diganti semua kan, so nak elak tu. So kita orang just proceed je.
Okay, that's good. Baguslah. Okay, so kita continue lah dengan topik, the next topic lagi. Topik ni quite lengthy one ya. Cuma hari ni I just want to cover until remuneration saja. In this topic, rights, powers and duties of personal representative ni, we will be reading about apakah hak kuasa conferred by the Act and also dia punya responsibility and duties as personal representative. Okay, so before this we have read about we have read about surat kuasa kan. Kita dah kenal what is meant by letters of representation kan. Letters of representation yang kita panggil sebagai probate ya, kalau yang ada wasiat. Yang kita panggil sebagai letters of administration jika meninggal tanpa wasiat. Okay, kita dah kenal, we have gone through jurisdiction semua tu, and baru tadi kita just complete on wasiat or wills. Non-Muslim and Muslim. So today kita nak tengok apakah batas-batas, is there a limitation of power ataupun ada tak extent, to what extent the duties of personal representative boleh pergi ke mana juga. Adakah duties dia tu adalah duties yang is limited according to whatever stated in the will ataupun macam mana. So in this topic basically this is the outline. Pertama kali kita nak tahulah siapa who is what we call as personal representative ni. And then kita tengok sedikit on rights, powers, duties and liabilities, the introduction. And then commencing or defending legal suits. So ada tak, ada local standard in commencing or defending legal suits. And then kita start dengan duty, duty of personal representative as to inventory. So kita nak tengok dia tanggungjawab dia dalam nak menguruskan aset-aset si mati. Talking about inventory meaning that referring to duty to call in asset together and collect semualah asset and liabilities of the deceased. Kita nak tengok juga dari segi remuneration. Last time in our meeting ada student tanya boleh dapat apa kata allowance ke, ataupun ada gaji ke, salary ke paid to PR. Ini lah kita nak tengok sini. Duty not to make personal profit. Pun nak jatuh bawah duty kan. Maknanya kalau if it is found that the personal representative try to make personal profit out of the deceased estate, so dia dah breach kat sini. Kita tengok juga misconduct, liability dia pula, kalau dia fraudulently obtaining or retaining estate of the deceased. Nanti kita tengok yang ni hari tu we have come across the term kan, executor di Santot kan. Kita akan tengok secara lebih kita nak tengok how court approach in dealing with such cases. Okay, duty to pay that is power of PR to dispose of property. Nak tengok macam mana dia dispose property. And we want to read about the liabilities. Sorry, tak keluar ni. And right to indemnity. And last one, we tengok dia buat investment. Investment here referring to power of personal representative to invest. So mana nak invest this estate. So basically these are the outline for the topic. So hari ni I nak cover sampai remuneration saja. Okay, so who is personal representative? So siapakah ia personal representative ni? Okay, sorry. Sorry ya, putus tadi. Screen ada lagi kan? Screen ada lagi?
Hello.
Ada.
Ada. Salah. Okay. Okay, so who is the personal representative? Dari segi kefahaman dia, understanding, I hope that student pada waktu ketika ini dah faham lah kalau secara understanding itu siapakah ini yang kita maksudkan sebagai personal representative in the law of probate. Okay, so whenever a person dies, someone must administer his estate and distribute the estate to the persons entitled thereto according to applicable law. So bila seorang mati mesti ada orang nak uruskan kan. Kalau bila mana seorang meninggal dunia, no one volunteer ataupun in the sense that they rasa responsibility to manage or administer the deceased estate. Mesti ada seseorang yang menguruskan whatever left behind by the deceased, by the siapa saja meninggal dunia. Tapi macam mana pula kalau meninggal dunia tapi tak ada siapa yang nak uruskan harta, question mark lah. Okay, so kalau according to law, statutory provision provided under the law of probate, whenever a person dies, mesti ada seseorang yang perlu uruskan harta si mati. Okay, so urusan dia adalah mengikut undang-undang. Tak boleh buat nak uruskan si mati. Dah every angle of law, semua dah ada specific or respective law or legislation to be referred to. Okay, so a person who administer the deceased estate is called a personal representative. Inilah panggil orang ni sebagai personal representative. Itu benalah English, wakil. You tengok term dia bahasa Melayu, dipanggil sebagai apa? Kan? Personal representative ni. Okay. A personal representative who is appointed under a will is known as the executor. Ini kita dah banyak kali bilang lah sini. Okay. Or executrix. Okay. You may also find whenever you read the materials, reading materials in law probate, kadang you put executrix. Okay. So itu ada executor lah. While administrator or administratrix is a personal representative to whom administration is granted in cases of disease dying without a will. So dalam konteks person yang meninggal dunia tiada wasiat, so kita panggil personal representative sebagai administrator. Okay. A person entitled to any share in the deceased estate is called a beneficiary. Siapa yang entitled to the deceased estate among the family members lah. Family members of deceased estate kita panggil sebagai beneficiary. Okay. An appointed personal representative is conferred the power to administer the estate of the deceased and distribute or divide the same among beneficiaries under the will. Okay. Or according to the law. Kalau under the will kita rujuk kepada executor type lah kan. Kalau according to the laws on distribution of his intestate estate, maknanya harta yang tidak ada wasiat, ini ikut laws lah. Laws applicable for distribution that is under the Distribution Act or Faraid law when it involves Muslim, as the case may be. Okay. So basically this page yang nampak sekarang ni is a basic idea of who is what we call as personal representative under the law of probate. Okay. Dua tu je. Administrator, satu lagi executor. Executor yang menguruskan wasiat. That's why the name is executor, sebab dia nak execute the will. Administrator dia tak boleh panggil executor sebab dia tak nak execute apa-apa. Dia hanyalah tugas dia is to administer whatever estate left by the deceased. Deceased tu tak meninggalkan wasiat. Administrator dia akan uruskan wasiat nanti yang tidak meninggalkan wasiat tadi. So in case of Muslim, kita ada Faraid law and also other related enactments on Muslim atau kita panggil apa, Muslim estate management. Okay, such as wasiat ke, zakat ke, wakaf ke. So kita kena baca sama. When involve Muslim, dia banyak lagi legislation, especially state legislation yang applicable to the case and issue. Okay, so basically duties of representative are prescribed in section 68 of the PAA. Okay. Kalau buka you punya PAA, buka section 68. Kalau buka section 68, apa dia buat? Sekejap duties kan? Basically ni lah yang kita akan baca dalam topik ni. Okay, down kan? Okay, the death of person intestate. Okay, baca, buat note sikit. Okay. Come to when involve minority beneficiary. Okay, certificate of income. Okay, kita akan baca juga lah dalam screen, dalam topik kita ni. Okay. So among others, to call in, sell, to sell the property, the deceased property, the deceased estate, either movable or immovable, and convert into money, such part thereof as may not convert money. Okay, dalam konteks ni kita kata perlukan nilai duit tu, untuk tujuan apa-apa lah. Dia nak bayar hutang ke apa ke, so dia kena dispose, dia jual movable or immovable asset oleh si mati. Okay. Out of such money, nilai the PR, personal representative shall pay all such funeral, cost permohonan, testamentary and administration expenses. So segala bentuk perbelanjaan berhubungan, wasiat dan urusan. Okay. Hutang, debt and other liabilities. Ada lagi tanggungan-tanggungan lain, hutang, pinjaman ke, banyak-banyak pinjaman lah sekarang ni, pinjaman berbentuk housing, berbentuk apa panggil hire purchase, hire purchase lah macam-macam sekarang ni, hire purchase kereta, hire purchase apa tu, water filter, air filter, semua tu hire purchase kan. Kalau lagi bentuk pinjaman, credit card, personal loan, liability services lain, komitmen lain. Okay. And also property yang mana liabilities yang ialah yang dibayar, mungkin cukai ke, cukai tak sebab bayar lagi, atau rental, sewa, and the residue of the same to provide for any pecuniary legacies bequeathed by the will of the deceased or invested in any investment authorized by any law for the investment of trust. Inilah di bawah section 68 of the PAA. Okay. So this is statutory duty. Kalau if the PR they go against the duty, itu maknanya dia boleh be charged sebagai breach of duties. So nak baca apa ni, we need to also read on the fiduciary duties. Cakap pasal fiduciary principle kan. Ingat lagi fiduciary dalam law of torts kan. So kita kena faham sebab it relate so much with the peranan role of personal representative under the law of probate. Okay. The representative of the deceased estate in exercising his duties is required to deal with the distinctive bodies. Kita dah baca jurisdiction which are governed by different laws and procedures, such as the court, involve civil and Sharia. Sharia if it involve Muslim, if it involve disputes of hibah ke contohnya, dispute of wakaf ke, whenever applicable, whenever applicable ni Sharia lah tadi, kalau isu-isu yang dia memerlukan endorsement by Sharia court, memerlukan decision by Sharia court. Okay, and also other than court, land office, so di sini juga tempat personal representative exercise punya function, bila mana involve small estate, kan? Okay. Financial institution, ni bila estate lah, dia boleh pergi ke bank untuk nak dapatkan balance dan tengok baki account sedaman ke apa sebagainya, the deceased, so dengan surat kuasa tu dia boleh lah minta available balance. Nak maklumkan pada bank ini mati dan meninggal dunia. So you yang sekarang ni representing representing the deceased, maknanya you act as personal representative of the deceased estate. So bank pun faham, bank pun keluarkan whatever statement they have for you to manage with. The cooperative, kalau ada dalam bentuk koperasi, so you need to go to that cooperative to settle whatever commitment ataupun apa saja bentuk peranan dalam kooperatif tu. The Employees Provident Fund, EPF, KWSP. Okay. So nak kena pergi ke KWSP untuk tujuan kalau dinamakan sebagai penama kan. Kalau the representative tu, personal representative is not named as the nominee, then tak adalah perlu ke sini sebab EPF ni dia ada termasuk di bawah estate or property which cannot be disposed by the will. Kalau in case kalau the personal representative tu is also a nominee, dia hanya perlu pergi orang specific form lah EPF to in order to withdraw the deceased portion dalam account EPF. The Trust Corporation, kalau ada amanah, ada harta-harta di bawah Trust Corporation, Trust Company ataupun harta-harta yang melibatkan minor. Mungkin dalam will tu disebut minoriti anak dia beberapa orang, seorang je, still minor, dia letakkan di bawah Trust Corporation. Jadi itulah semua peranan yang disebut di sini. Whenever a person is appointed as personal representative, dia akan required to deal with these distinctive bodies. Yang mana this distinctive bodies per institution are governed by different laws and procedures. Faham? So as a law probate student, belajar betul-betul dapat student di akhirnya akan dapat faham and can easily identify the issues, the related legal issues, and also the related jurisdiction and also legislation applicable to the fact in issue. Yang kita nak tengok dalam law probate. Datang macam ni, you may easily boleh dah identify and detect isu yang mana satu ni nak resolve. You boleh dah nampak outcome dia macam mana, you dah boleh expect outcome dia macam mana, you boleh dapat when you have in front of you the fact of the case. Okay, so kat sini kita nak tengok what is meant by rights, powers, duties and liability. From the term ni kita faham lah apa hak dia kan, apa hak personal representative ni. Adakah dia ada specified rights under the specific duty or any specific provisions relating to rights. Tadi kita nampak section 64 is about duties kan, 64, 68 tadi. Dia clearly sebut duties. Jawab dia. And liabilities. Powers, kuasa dia, sejauh mana kuasa dia, ada limitation tak, duties and liabilities. The personal representative initial duties in the administration of the assets of the deceased estate revolve around the task of calling in the estate asset, determining the beneficiaries. Determining ni, kalau dia nak decide siapa yang jadi beneficiary, determining ni lebih pada nak identifying lah, nak mencari beneficiaries tu. The letter determining meaning that dia nak listkan kan, bila nak mohon surat kuasa tu, dia nak kena listkan beneficiary. So determining beneficiary dalam list permohonan tu lah. The later task of administering the affairs of the state with detachment and impartiality, and distributing the assets as directed by the will in the case of testacy and by statutory requirement in the case of testacy. Kita kan selalu jumpa lah ada term macam ni kan. Kita akan setiap jumpa legal phrase yang ni yang menunjuk kepada mana distributing asset as directed by the will, ni case adalah case estate, ya, testacy. Ya, bila mana case testacy, kita akan tengok statutory requirement. Sebab tak ada will. Okay. So in the discharge of this responsibility as an accountable person, the personal representative must necessarily act with due diligence to take possession of all the property of the deceased and account for any property in respect of which possession has not been possible, and he must assume a responsibility which he must discharge with due diligence by making the fullest inquiries and by taking all such steps as are necessary and reasonable to ascertain the total value of the deceased estate. So it is not an easy and straightforward task. Okay, kena exercise due diligence, maknanya dia kena cari semua lah. In terms of call in estate, biasanya dia akan buat advertisement lah. Advertisement ni itu cara dulu. Advertisement tu selalu kalau jumpa dalam biasa non-muslim kita tengok kan dalam newspaper obituary kan. Itu salah satu call in lah. Itu call in beneficiary. Kan? Estate tu dalam apa cara pun dia kena exercise due diligence, mesti taking into account every possible angle or aspect of searching. Kena buat research, kena buat search. Maknanya dia in terms of kalau in case kalau ada contest the contentious suit ke any interested party rasa dia been denied off ke mungkin ada hutang dia ada hutang dengan si mati tapi the PR tu, the personal representative fail to address his or her interest, dan kat situ nanti due diligence the personal representative need to prove that dia dah exercise the duties setelah due diligence buat semua tu. As the method of calling estate and also identifying or determining the beneficiary. Okay, semua ni telah di statutory highlighted dalam statutory highlighted. Okay, in related legislation. Okay. Kat sini kalau kita baca paragraf kita dah faham. So dapat kuasa conferred by court, conferred by any institution land office ke dalam bentuk dapat instruction daripada mas raya ke. Okay, so it is all about exercising due diligence. Okay, sebab accountability dia sangat tinggi, sebab dia boleh disaman dia boleh, dan nanti kalau kita baca dalam dia punya liabilities itu, so dia bukan ada powers, kita kat sini yang nampak grant, bukan saja ada powers, tapi dia pun ada liabilities. Okay, and yang paling tinggi itu ialah duties dia lah, duties dia tu tanggungjawab, ada section 68 of PAA. Okay, ni yang sebut tadi, commencing or defending legal suit. Okay. Okay, dalam konteks ni dia, executor may begin an action before probate, but he cannot proceed beyond the stage where it becomes necessary for him to proceed title by the production of the grant of probate. So dalam konteks ni dia boleh begin action tapi dalam keadaan dia dah dapat grant, the grant of probate has been extracted. So kalau you tak ada grant tu, you tak boleh pun begin action. You kena ada sebagai evidence atau maknanya you dah pergi ambil grant tu di mahkamah. You dah extract grant from the court. Thus the executor may not obtain decree free before probate is expected because the production of probate is the only way in which can proceed title. Okay. Ayat dia pusing-pusing. Tapi di sini yang mana executor hanya boleh begin legal action to pursue, dia boleh saman ke apa, sebab dia acting on behalf of the deceased, estate, okay. Ada satu ada isu yang perlu diselesaikan, membabitkan third party so dia kena proceed legal suit tu hanya selepas strike probate. Selagi mana probate tu belum being extracted from the court, so you tak boleh start legal suit or legal action. Okay. Contohnya, sebagai contoh, executor cannot compel a purchaser, kontrak jual beli to complete a conveyance or assignment until after probate has been obtained. Further, before the grant is expected, the High Court is entitled to substitute an executor with another. Ini maksud dia. Ini adalah contoh yang sebut tadi. Contohnya bisa kata si mati ni sebelum meninggal dunia dia ada start dealing, sell and purchase of land ke rumah ke apa, dia tak sempat. Meninggal dunia, the dealings tu cannot be, it's not complete. So yet to complete. So peranan executor lah nak completekan sale. Tapi dalam keadaan surat kuasa tu belum lagi dikeluarkan, belum lagi mahkamah keluarkan, mahkamah pun yet to grant lagi, or in the case probate tu dia tak extract lagi from court, dia tak boleh paksa mana-mana purchaser untuk selesaikan dealings. So purchaser pun, kalau you deal dengan purchaser, you pembeli kepada harta si mati, you kena tengok surat kuasa pentadbir dulu, then baru you boleh proceed. Kalau tak, dia tak ada locus lah. Dia tak ada locus nak to act as executor or administrator. Sebab apa? Sebab tak tentu lagi pun yang dia tu dapat yang grant dia sebagai executor. Sometimes dalam proses permohonan, tiba-tiba ada masuk proof ke apa ke, dia tak layak jadi executor. So court boleh decide substitute with another person to be appointed as executor. Okay. So a personal representative has the same powers to sue in respect of all causes of action that survive the deceased. Maknanya mana saja, apa saja yang si mati, berkenaan si mati lah. So dia ada the same powers, seolah-olah dia tu si mati. Dia boleh proceed dengan powers to sue. A personal representative has the same right to sue on behalf of the estate as the deceased would have had when living. The personal representative may exercise the same power for the recovery of debt due to him at the time of his death. Jadi, jadi nak cakap yang dia ni adalah personal representative ni yang saya pernah sebut, saya mention before this. Okay, dia ni adalah seolah-olahnya dia mati lah. Kita nak tahu dia punya hak dia, rights of personal representative. As if dia adalah deceased semasa dia dah meninggal dunia, tapi seolah-olah dia lah yang masih hidup. So dia boleh perform, he has such rights, same powers. Nak saman ke nak dapatkan hutang piutang yang daripada apa dia punya debtor ke, so dia nak recover balik hutang dia, apa-apa saja bentuk yang mana deceased would had. Okay, dia hidup. Okay, ini dalam konteks testacy. Okay, tak ada wasiat. Executor may sue without having to extract the grant of probate, as his title is derived from the will and vests in him upon the death of the testator. However, although the executor can sue on behalf of the estate of the deceased, he cannot obtain judgment until the grant of probate has been extracted, because the production of probate is the only way in which the executor can prove his title. Okay. Dalam konteks ini, ini ada kes tak silap ni. Executor boleh saman. Tadi kita faham yang dia tak boleh saman selagi mana dia tak dapatkan surat kuasa dia, dia tak dapatkan surat kuasa dia. Dalam kes mana dapat statement ni? Executor may too without having to extract the draft will assist title the draft from the will and best candidate. Yang ni IKIV ni ayat pertama ni kat mana ni? Depan ni. Sebab kita faham yang mana bila mana executor dia nak sue on behalf of the estate of the deceased, dia tak boleh. He cannot obtain judgment until the grant of probate has been extracted because the production of the probate. Okay, faham. Okay, macam ni. Ya, kalau dia start pun, if dia start to sue sebelum dapat probate tu mana jangan sebelum grant of probate to be extracted from the court, ya, tapi dia tak boleh dapat judgment, judgment cannot be granted sehinggalah the grant of probate tu is extracted. Sebab nak katakan di sini yang mana grant of probate tu adalah the only proof yang boleh mengatakan executor ni adalah executor of that particular will. So tengok dalam kes ni Muhammadul Muhyiddin ajar ni, executor may be sued on behalf of the estate, of the deceased, and ni may be sued, this is because although the person has been named in the will as executor, he may not wish to act as executor and is to now. Okay, dalam kes Muhammadul Muhyiddin ajar kes lama ni, kes ni dia drive principle mana kata kita boleh faham apa saja yang berlaku, yang mana executor also can be may be sued, yang dalam kata dia pun as long as the probate tu has not been extracted, maknanya tak boleh berlaku sebarang bentuk action lah, sebab dalam kes ni dia kata walaupun seseorang tu dinamakan dalam will tu sebagai executor, kemungkinan besar dia tak mahu pun as executor ataupun later dia renounce pula dia punya peranan as executor, until probate extracted. So dalam kes ni dia nak beritahu whoever name in the will as executor tidaklah menjanjikan satu yang pastilah yang mengatakan orang yang dinamakan tu akan jadi executor. Yang pasti adalah those yang being named dalam grant of probate. Bila mahkamah dah keluarkan dia kata okay, dalam keadaan mahkamah yang grant that particular surat kuasa tadi, yang ada nama that particular executor tadi. So yang itu adalah the only proof yang mengatakan executor yang disebut dalam surat takdir kuasa yang granted by the court adalah executor yang telah pastilah. Itu kalau itu kes Muhammadul Muhyiddin ajar. Okay. Okay. Kita nampak kat sini kita nak faham apa yang kita nak faham ni adalah surat kuasa yang dikeluarkan court tu by the court, kemudian being extracted by the executor untuk dia perform duty dia as executor. Yang itulah dia boleh proof lah yang boleh mengatakan I am the personal, I am tu yang merujuk pada executor tu, I am the personal representative of the deceased. Tapi dalam general idea kita faham lah siapa saja yang dinamakan oleh testator dalam satu wasiat itu, itulah yang akan jadi executor. Tapi kena ingat, bear in mind, kalau dalam kes Muhammadul Muhyiddin, court kata, siapa saja yang dinamakan dalam will tu, mungkin dia pun tak nak jadi executor sebab banyak kes tu berlaku. Bila dia tak nak jadi executor, kena lantik orang lain. Lantik orang lain, dia dah tak cerita probate lagi lah. Dah cerita pasal letters of administration. Okay, sudah tak boleh grant probate anymore. Okay, ni dalam kes intestacy. So dalam kes intestacy, administrator derive his title from the grant of representation. Kita faham lah, dah tak ada wasiat. Derive kuasa dia tu ataupun dia punya tanggungjawab dia daripada surat kuasa yang dikeluarkan oleh mahkamah, grant of representation. Although this title once granted relates back to the sama juga di case of probate, ya. Probate tu lagi lah kan. Kalau kita faham probate ni lagi nampak clear status dia sebab dia dah dinamakan dalam wasiat, ya. Tapi still court kata as the grant of probate is the only proof showing that how the executor gets the title tu. Jadi wasiat tu hanya sebagai satu bentuk mekanisme lah untuk nak memudah cara lah, memudah cara proses permohonan surat wasiat surat takbir kuasa di mahkamah. Okay, kalau kita talking about testacy yang meninggal dunia tanpa wasiat, lagi lah memang tak adalah cerita wasiat kan. So dia bergantung penuh kepada surat kuasa yang dikeluarkan oleh mahkamah. Okay. So on the other hand, administrator may only be sued after the grant of the letters of administration has been extracted. Okay, controller of income tax. Thus, a person who has obtained a grant of letters of the administration but who has not yet extracted the grant cannot be sued. Faham term yang mana obtain grant, extracted the grant. Itu two different time. Ya, obtain ni dia mohon. Extracted ni bila mana dia pergi sabut surat kuasa tu di mahkamah. Dia pergi ambil. Bila dia pergi ambil, maknanya dia dah ready lah nak teruskan tugas dia. Proceed with the duties of administering the deceased estate kan. Okay, kalau misal kata surat kuasa court dah granted tapi belum extract. So dalam kes ni, Govinda Sami ni dia kata tak boleh pula. Tak boleh, cannot be sued sebab tak extract lagi grant. It is the grant under seal of the court and not the order of the court issuing the grant which closes the personal representative with the authority. Okay, so faham kat sini. Extracted ni maknanya tak ada siapa lagi pun pergi ambil surat kuasa tu di mahkamah. So, dalam kes Govinda Sami, so the person tu yang dia nak sue tu, court kata cannot be sued. Sebab dia kata hanya grant yang under seal of court saja, bukan order perintah yang keluarkan tu dia nak ada that particular surat kuasa yang telah di-extract from the court. Okay. So dalam kes ni kita boleh nampak to what extent the rights of personal representative in the case of testacy and also intestacy boleh pergi sejauh mana right. Okay. Boleh nampak dia punya hak orang bertakbir, sama ada dia mentadbir ikut wasiat ataupun tiada wasiat. So kita nampak according to these cases, this is the decided cases ni kita sebut tadi, kita boleh nampak selagi mana surat kuasa tu belum di-extract daripada mahkamah, so maknanya the personal representative cannot sue or cannot be sued. Tidak boleh saman atau saman selagi mana surat tu belum di-extract daripada mahkamah. Okay, dalam kes ni pula court kata wakil-wakil diri kepada Mahadevi, the trial judge erred in law when she concluded that the appellant who had been granted probate had no locus standi. It must not be forgotten that when the deceased dies, the estate appointing executor and or executrix of the will, the locus starts from the minute of the deceased death. However, in interstate matters, a letter of administration must be obtained and the sealed order must be extracted to be cloaked with locus standi yang lain pula. Ini praktis sampai 2011. And dalam kes ni, dalam Court of Appeal, dia kata trial judge erred. Mungkin trial judge ni dah rujuk kepada kes-kes yang terdahulu. Yang mana, dalam kes tu, mungkin, apa nak kata, dia kata tak ada locus standi itu sebab surat kuasa tak extract lah kan. Kalau kita tengok kes-kes yang terdahulu tapi dalam kes ni, Court of Appeal kata kalau dalam kes will, the locus of the executor started from the minute of the deceased death. So peranan dia dia dah boleh, dia boleh act as dia dah. Dia kena tengok tarikh kematian. Tapi however dalam kes yang intestate, dalam kes yang tak ada wasiat, mesti ada surat kuasa. Nampak ada different treatment lah. Okay? Kita nak kena baca kes. So practice court ni dia akan consider banyak aspek lah. Dia bukan tengok, dia akan baca literal interpretation of the legislation saja. Dia akan tengok of different angles and aspects of the text. Okay, under of 8(3) of the Civil Law Act, no action in tort may be brought against the deceased estate unless proceedings were pending at the date of death or are taken not later than 6 months after his personal representative took up the statutory provision. Dia kata tak boleh ada action in tort dibawa kepada yang may be brought against the deceased estate. Kecuali lah kalau ada proceeding yang pending date sebab kematian. Maksudnya mungkin masa hidup dia ada proceeding tapi dia meninggal dunia, itu lain cerita lah. Ataupun apa nak kata, tort tadi tu, action tort tu taken not later than 6 months after his personal representative took up representation. Apa maksud di situ? Taken not later than 6 months. Not later than 6 months ni maksudnya apa? Apa maksud di situ? Not later than
6 bulan.
After his personal representative took up. Okay, maknanya kena lebih lah action in tort. Betul tak? Dan maksud dia tu, siapa boleh explain tak? No action in tort may be brought against the deceased unless proceeding pending the date. Taken not later than 6 months. Maksud dia tu, siapa boleh explain? After okey, dalam konteks personal representative tu dah dapat surat takbir kuasa, so dalam tempoh not later than 6 months ni maknanya kurang 6 bulan lah kan? Betul tak?
Betul. Boleh lebih daripada 6 bulan.
Boleh not later than not later than 6 months. Boleh lebih daripada 6 bulan lah. So dalam konteks ni boleh lah kan? Boleh lah action in tort tu may be brought against the deceased estate. Okay, dalam tempoh tu. Biasa pun dalam tempoh nak dapat surat kuasa pun macam tu lah, paling cepat 6 bulan. Paling cepat lah tu 6 bulan Walaupun Ruzlina nanti cakap dengan saya itu 3 bulan pun ada. Straightforward punya lah tu probate kan. Tapi kebanyakan tu 3 ke 6 bulan dia kata. So bila so dalam Civil Law Act ni dia dah ambil kira lah. Ambil kira dah common prosedur bila berlaku permohonan obtaining letters of representation tadi. Okay, so dalam kes ni John Walker dia kata it was held that when the original letter of representation has been granted in a foreign jurisdiction, okay, such 6 months limitation period runs from the time the grant is received in Malaysia. So ada limitation period. Okay. Civil Law Act ni dia cakap pasal limitation period ke? Okay, jugalah merujuk kepada kalau ada apa saja bentuk legal suit in tort, okay, kepada legal suit mati lah so dalam konteks ni kalau foreign jurisdiction makna kata surat kuasa tu dikeluarkan oleh foreign jurisdiction, okay, limitation period 6 months runs from the time the grant is resealed in Malaysia. Mana dia ada tempoh 6 bulan je lah. Not later than 6 months ni maknanya tak boleh lebih, bukan boleh lebih. Betul tak? Not later than 6 months. Dia tak boleh lebih 6 months. Okay, dia tak boleh lebih 6 months. After his personal representative took up. So kalau yang limitation period tu dia jatuh bawah unless kan, macam proviso lah. Proviso. So kalau mana kata action in tort tu berlaku sebelum 6 bulan tu, dia jatuh bawah proviso lah. Boleh lah. So kalau dalam kes John Walker ni, dia merujuk kepada surat kuasa yang foreign jurisdiction. Okay. So tempoh limitation period bawah Civil Law Act tu bermula from the time the grant is resealed in Malaysia. Maknanya bukan semasa grant tu resealed dekat foreign jurisdiction. Dia kira daripada di start di reseal, di sepanjang meterai di Malaysia. Okay. Kita tengok sikit inventory. Jadi basically kita dah cakap dah sikit-sikit pasal inventory ni. Dalam konteks ni PR kena render proper account. Ni kita cakap pasal due diligence kan. So what they need to do adalah dia perlu ada proper account of the deceased estate at the end of the administration. Bila mana-mana beneficiary nakkan melihat kepada account tu, so dia ada proper account. Okay, so dalam section 62 of the AAA, dia sebut PR of deceased person must, when lawfully required so to do, exhibit by affidavit filed in court a true and perfect inventory, an account of the movable and immovable property of the deceased, and the court has power to require PR to bring inventories. In every grant of representation, there is attached to the grant a schedule of the deceased estate which is not limited to any specific property or excludes any specific property. Dalam kes Chung Kok Yang ni, executor was required to file inventory. Okay, so we are talking about duty of PR as to bring in inventory. Inilah kita rujuk pada section 62 and decided cases. Ini dalam konteks dia dah nak discharge dia punya duty lah. Dia kena tunjuk lah dia dah buat render proper account, wang masuk, wang keluar, apa saja keuntungan yang dibuat atas harta si mati. Lepas tu semua beneficiary nak kan boleh request, ada hak untuk tengok. Itulah dia kena proofkan dia dah exercise due diligence. Okay, under the Trustee Act, trustees or PR may employ agents, accountants or solicitors. Mungkin dia seorang yang tidak ada pengetahuan, not so knowledgeable about rendering account. So dia boleh appoint, boleh menggantikan agent, accountants or solicitors to do any act required during administration of estate, and this would include preparation of the estate account. Ini boleh lah. Dia dalam konteks ni dia termasuklah dalam duty dia dalam nak administer the deceased estate. Okay, tengok pula remuneration. Remuneration, ada yang tanya itu kan, dia sudah tanya. Boleh dapat macam salary ke ataupun income tak? Jika dia diganti sebagai PR. Okay, so a PR is expected to add without fee for his work if he is in a fiduciary position. Yang saya cakap tadi kita baca fiduciary relationship principles. Siapa dia? Apakah kita maksudkan when we talking about fiduciary relationship principles? So dalam law of probate, dalam ni kita faham is expected to act. However, the PR may claim to be reimbursed for all out-of-pocket expenses incurred. Pun ada jawab kan? Dia boleh claim balik apa saja bentuk. Mungkin dia dahulukan dulu duit dia sebab dia dalam peranan dia nak discharge semua liabilities ataupun yang mana dia boleh dahulukan, yang mana yang cepat uruskan didahulukan duit dia, so dia boleh claim to be reimbursed, pulangkan balik duit dia yang mana yang dia telah belanjakan out of pocket dia. They may also claim reasonable remuneration if the beneficiaries of the estate have benefited from the work done. Generally, personal representatives are entitled to remuneration in the following cases. Bila mana court authorized, okay, bila mana the will, wasiat, confers such authorities, which is binding on beneficiary who take only what the will give them. Ataupun, every beneficiary of a sovereign estate has reached the age of majority or is a corporation, and they confer authority for the PR to receive remuneration. So all in all, they mesti ada authority lah to receive the remuneration. So the true test for calculating remuneration is not whether the administrator is successful, but whether the administrator has done his duty according to the law. Okay? Now last sekali kita tengok satu case yang form akta ini. Executor has claimed 5% administration fees amounting to 28k. The evidence clearly showed that there was no justification for the claim. There was insufficient ground to justify the defendant claim tadi, of administration fee. Defendants sought to base their claim on the basis of section 43 of PAA. Court pula tengok case Rachel yang mana court dalam putuskan the power of awarding commission to executor lies solely at the discretion of the court after taking into account the conduct of the executor in administering the estate. The executor cannot on his own simply charge to the account of the estate in claiming for the commission allowed under the Act. Defendant must make an application to the court under the said provisions and show to the court their conduct in administering the estate. Basically kalau nanti kita faham form akta yang merujuk pada Rachel Mei Ling Ong ni, kita faham lah kan. Dia bukanlah straightforward, you kata you executor, you boleh claim you punya remuneration. Mestilah mohon, buat permohonan, and court pula kata adalah it is a discretion of the court. Selepas ambil kira dah semualah, yang mana executor ni administer dalam konteks dia administering the estate. So maknanya dia boleh justify pada court lah yang dia telah menggunakan ataupun dia telah mengexercise dia punya duty secara due diligence tadi. Okay, tadi kan ada sebut kan nak ukur kejayaan mentadbir harta, tetapi yang mana dia telah exercise the duty of the executor as according to the law. Itu terkekut atau dari sudut. Okay, setakat tu dulu yang untuk duty and liabilities lain tu kita akan sambunglah in our next meeting. Okay? Okay. Sejauh mana lah sejauh mana rights dia tadi kita dah cover rights, powers dan sedikit duties kita akan pergi lagi tengok apa yang the rest ni in our next meeting insyaAllah. Okay, so you punya affidavit tu last week I tak boleh buka Ghost. I rasa memang masalah internet tak boleh buka. So hari ni saya cuba buka lagi Ghost. Saya try to mark from there lah. So for whoever yang dah submit, nanti I akan marking dekat situ juga lah. I try to jot down some notes dekat dalam Ghost juga insyaAllah. So untuk next week tutorial nanti kita baca case lah. Kita baca case yang I tunjuk dalam wave tu, dalam WhatsApp tadi. Okay. Itu saja lah kot untuk hari ni. Okay. So kita tangguhkan dengan Bismillah surah Wala. Okay, thank you.